On March 21st, 1998, bubbly young woman Amy Lynn Bradley joined her parents, Iva and Ron, and her brother, Brad, on a weekend cruise around the Caribbean islands. It was the trip of a lifetime aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas, which was at that time one of the newest ships of the Royal Caribbean International. From Oranjestad, Aruba, the ship was scheduled to travel to Curaçao, Antilles. The family enjoyed their vacation, attending parties, eating good food, and meeting new people. On the evening of March 23rd, Amy and her brother headed to the ship's nightclub to party until the early hours of the morning. Although they spent much of the night together, Brad decided to return to the family cabin a little earlier than his sister. Door logs prove that Brad entered the suite in the early hours of March 24th, around 3:35 a.m., and then Amy followed 5 minutes later. Before turning in for the night, they talked for a while, probably about their exciting excursions on board. After a short conversation, Brad went to bed, leaving Amy sitting on the lounge chair on the cabin balcony. Hours later, between 5:15 and 5:30 a.m., their dad got up briefly and had a glimpse of Amy at that same exact place. She apparently fell asleep in that chair balcony, so he didn't bother to wake her up. He just went back to sleep. When he woke up again at 6 a.m., he checked on Amy again and realized that she was no longer there. Her lighter and cigarettes were also gone, but not her ID and shoes. It's weird, since if she headed out somewhere, why would she leave her ID and shoes? Her family was alarmed. They quickly alerted the cruise authorities about Amy. However, instead of looking for her right away, they still allowed around 2,000 passengers to leave the ship and explore the island of Curaçao as scheduled. Hours passed. When it was finally confirmed that Amy was nowhere to be found, the Netherlands Antilles Coast Guard implemented a 4-day search around the surrounding waters, but it was fruitless. The Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines also chartered a boat to help with the search efforts, but still, no sign of Amy. There was no Amy, dead or alive, though for authorities, this is no mystery. They believe that she had fallen overboard and was unable to save herself, despite being an experienced swimmer and lifeguard. That was the only sensible explanation. If she did venture out of the cabin, she hadn't intended to be gone long, considering the FBI found all of the shoes she brought with her in her room. However, the more they investigate, the more questions arise. The first intriguing detail of this case came from Alistair Douglas, known as Yellow, a member of the ship's band Blue Orchid. He told investigators that he had been dancing and drinking with Amy until about 1 a.m. He denied seeing her again after that. It was a very frustrating situation for the Bradley family. They wanted to find her as soon as possible and go home with her, but despite their efforts, they were eventually forced to return to Virginia without their daughter. From there, they continued to work with the FBI and other officials in a bid to find out what really happened to Amy. If it's true that she died, they wanted to know where her body was. But, in a strange turn of events, there had been many sightings suggesting that she was kidnapped and forced into the sex trade. A taxi driver in Curaçao said that he had seen a woman matching Amy's description as soon as she went missing. The woman asked if she could use his phone for an emergency call. That's it. The taxi driver wasn't able to give other significant details. This encounter can never be confirmed, since there was no way to prove if it was really Amy or just someone who looked very much like her. In August 1998, 5 months after her disappearance, Canadian tourists vacationing in Curaçao saw a woman walking along the beach with suspicious men. The tourists claimed that she looked frightened. It was as if the two men were taunting her. David Carmichael, one of the Canadian tourists, said that it appeared like the woman wanted to tell him something, maybe ask for help, but she couldn't because of her intimidating male companions. Carmichael even stated that one of the men gave him a menacing look. When he went home, he saw media reports about Amy Bradley's case, and he was sure that the woman they saw was Amy. Amy and the poor woman had the same tattoos, a Tasmanian devil spinning a basketball on the shoulder, a gecko lizard on her navel, the sun on her lower back, and a Chinese symbol on her right ankle. The lady also sported a navel ring. 1 year later, another sighting was reported, this time by a US Navy sailor. When he visited a brothel, a woman approached him, told him that her name is Amy and that she needed help. he didn't report this to the authorities for fear that he would get in trouble for going to a brothel. This encounter was only revealed to the public years later when the brothel was already burned to the ground. 6 frustrating years later, another mysterious sighting was reported. In 2005, a woman named Judy Moorer was in a department store bathroom in Barbados when a woman, accompanied by 3 men, rushed in. She saw the guys threatening the woman about going back on a certain deal. When the men briefly left the bathroom, a young woman was able to tell Moorer that her name was Amy and that she was from Virginia. That was the only information she got from her. They weren't able to continue the conversation because the men came back in and dragged her away. Moorer helped the authorities produce sketches of the 3 people, but they were never found. Another sighting that didn't help the investigation. That same year, the most haunting potential leads came when a photograph of a young woman that looked like Amy surfaced. People saw it in an adult website. The woman was wearing heavy makeup, so you really need to stare at the photo to check if it was really her. The shape of her face and mouth have led people to assume that it was Amy and that she had been sold to prostitution. But how did that happen? Does that mean that a spy went aboard to look out for ladies pretty enough to be sold? Many unconfirmed stories have emerged claiming that pirates were operating in the areas where the cruise ships were docking. Some reports even implied that crew members may have worked with them to single out potential human trafficking victims for profit. In an interview with People magazine, Ivor Bradley said she remembered Amy attracting attention during her final nights on the cruise. She said several people watched her admiringly. At that time, she felt proud, but now she wonders if the attention was positive and innocent. What if that admiration led to her daughter's abduction? Another thing that supports this theory is the fact that Ron Bradley recalls being asked by one of the crew members one evening where his daughter was. They wanted to get to know her and take her to the bar. Amy didn't like all of these gestures and admiration, saying that the waiters gave her the creeps during the cruise. She was never comfortable being around them. 2 other sinister incidents related to that happened before Amy disappeared for good. First, Ivor said she saw suspicious people aboard the ship, watching dance performances, despite not being paying passengers. Second, when they tried to view their family photos taken during a dinner party, they were surprised that all photographs featuring Amy were gone. These were photos snapped by crew members and then put out on display. Was it possible that a crew member spotted Amy and helped human traffickers smuggle her off the ship to be sold into sex slavery? As they conducted investigations, it was revealed that FBI's initial search of the ship had not included employee living quarters and staterooms. What if someone had hidden Amy in those rooms, and then, after the search efforts, successfully got her out without anyone knowing? Okay, let's say human traffickers took her. Is pulling a woman off a cruise ship worth the risk? If she were taken by an experienced kidnapper, you'd think they'd have observed her before grabbing her. They were so brave to take a woman who was on board with her family members. Wouldn't it make more sense to wait in the port cities to kidnap her when she was isolated, without the view of security cameras and the eyes of potential witnesses? The last possible lead into this case came in 2010, when a human jawbone washed up on a beach in Aruba. It was analyzed and believed to have come from a Caucasian person. However, it was never tested to see if it belonged to Amy. Her family has vowed never to give up looking for her. Throughout the years, they have spent thousands of dollars trying to look for her and gather new leads. In a statement published by CNN, Ron and Ivor said they still believe that the daughter is alive and that she was being held captive by someone. The FBI is appealing on its website for more information on Amy and her whereabouts. They are offering a $25,000 reward for information that leads to the identification, arrest, and conviction of people responsible for her disappearance. When she went missing in 1998, Amy was 5 feet 6 inches tall with short brown hair. She had green eyes and lots of tattoos. This is a long shot, but if you have any information about her disappearance, reach out to the authorities as soon as possible. Please. So there, that's it. We'll end this video here, but if you want to share your thoughts about the case, feel free to comment down below. This is one of the most controversial cases out there, so I'm sure many of you are familiar with the theories surrounding Amy's disappearance. Let's talk about it. Also, if there are other topics you want us to cover in the upcoming episodes, let me know. There are new uploads around 3 times a week, so suggestions are very much welcome. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you loved it, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. And if you want to watch more videos like this one, click the notification bell to get notified each time there's a new story. More interesting stories to come. See you